Restless time, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay. Actually, no, you better stay here. Don't tune out, because we're just starting our Restless episode. It's Father Joseph from Stamford, Connecticut, with Diane and Matt, as together we seek the face of Christ in the midst of today's restless, crazy, mixed-up world.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. How was your day?
Today was, honestly, it was kind of exhausting.
Why? What'd you do today?
I just worked all day, and apparently I'm...
Dude, you're a high school gym teacher.
Yeah, and a piano teacher.
I'm a piano teacher. That's right.
And I taught some religion classes.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did. It was fun, actually.
Nice.
I was exhausted because I drove for 8.5 hours yesterday.
From Pittsburgh?
Yeah. And
Nice.
then
Where Matt will
went
be
to
getting
sleep.
married very shortly.
Yes. And all of you are invited. Except I'm not feeding you afterwards.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of churches in Pittsburgh, though, so we don't know which one it is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
have to
You
try-
guess
have to-
right,
You
you
have
get to
try
come.
every church.
Do you know that the high schoolers ask me that all the time?
Are they
They're like,
invited?
"Can I come to your wedding?" I tell them yes every time. I'm like, "Absolutely," but I'm not buying you food afterwards. And they said, "Oh, that's fine. We'll just go to Wendy's in between the ceremony and the party."
No, that's the whole point. That's that they're not coming to the party.
Dinner is
Like-
the party.
Right? I was like, "You don't understand." So
Well, a lot of these kids have never been to a wedding.
that's
I don't
interesting.
think I was ever at one till I was
Right.
after college.
What?
I don't think I'd ever been. to one.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I've only
went-
been to like one before college, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, unless
I
you
have older siblings.
Yeah, unless you have older siblings or aunts
So-
and uncles. But I mean,
I've been I don't even know how many weddings I've been to, but I like even as a kid, I don't think I could have counted.
really? So
Yeah, I'm on the younger side of my family as a whole.
yeah.
So
In college, I had 7 roommates, and I think 5 of them became priests, so I didn't go to a whole lot of weddings.
right, yeah,
True story.
yeah, conflict of
Probably went
interest.
to a lot of ordinations, right?
No, actually, I did not go to that many.
No?
No.
I've
Haven't-
never been to an ordination,
in your whole life, really?
not once.
I went to one last year in the Archdiocese of Hartford.
Was that the first one?
That was my first one.
How did you know the person?
I was dating someone who was a seminarian at the time, and
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Gotcha. Well, Matt, we'll have to get you next year. We have next
Yeah.
year in our diocese.
I'm going to your
Wait,
installation.
let me correct that. The guy was not a seminarian at the time. He was a former
yes.
seminarian.
You said it.
Thank you.
You couldn't see my face, but I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
That's like, I would have done that.
No. So it was like his class, his
Yeah,
his
yeah.
friend and everything.
Right,
I just
right.
thought it was so beautiful. And we just had the diaconate ordination. I mean, that was last year. This year, we had a couple of people in our diocese who were ordained to the diaconate last weekend. So
Yeah, we had 6 of them, which means 6 priesthood ordinations next year, God willing.
Wow,
awesome.
It'd be awesome.
Beauty.
Yeah, which is
Love
that's the
that.
most we've had in a very long time.
That's awesome.
I was ordained with 7 of us total, but I think that was the
Right, you're the last leading class.
we were the last big class.
Yeah. Of course, you're the best. That's why.
Only 6 of us are still active in the priesthood. 1 is left. but
Okay, right.
I think
I still think you're the best.
I think we have good hope for the other 5.
Hey, there's a
supposed to be.
remnant, right?
There's a remnant.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, this is not our topic for today, but it's nice banter. Anyway, just finding out how your day was.
yeah.
Anyway, our topic is, but I think it's actually a good segue because you had a pretty busy day.
Yeah.
And Diane, you always have a busy day.
Yes.
Your work-life balance is nuts. I don't know how
Yeah.
you do it.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's been a little bit better recently, but yeah, I'm in public accounting, so I mean, pretty much. Well, now in my new group, it's less, but it's it's between 3 and 6 months, just working between 60 and 80 hours
Wow.
a
Yeah.
week. So yeah, it's tough,
That's
but
crazy, yeah.
yeah, but you do. I've been doing this since I was in college, or right out of college. So you do get sort of used to that schedule, and you just have to be very intentional about your time
Yeah.
and how you spend it.
Yeah.
But that's why you haven't heard Diane on too many episodes.
Right.
Yes, that's why I've taken like a 3-month hiatus.
Yeah.
It's
been
also every time I say I'm tired, I think of people who do what you do, and I'm like, I'm such a wimp.
But you know what? You
never-
get like adrenaline as you're doing it. Honestly, the
I've
the
never
most
heard an
tired I
accountant say they get adrenaline from what they do.
No, but it's just like you constantly have to you're under this stress and pressure, and so I feel like you don't even realize how tired you are because you're just trying to meet the goal and do as best as you can. So for me, that's like it's a weird high, I guess, of just wanting to do my best and knowing that I'm like under this pressure and these deadlines and stuff.
Sure.
It's normally the week after busy season ends that I am exhausted. Like,
Right.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's just like it's like the release of all of that.
Do you
But
get sick the week after?
typically some sort of like
Yeah, it's
cold.
like your body is like it's done.
Yeah.
I can, fall
Yeah.
apart now.
It's really a release, though. Like, I feel like the body's so amazing that what it can do under stress. Although,
yeah.
you do have to be careful about what you're eating and like exercising and stuff. But again, building in time for those.
I have a
things.
question.
Yes.
Do you? Okay, it's twofold.
Yeah.
Okay. One, do you have time to pray? And two, do you offer up the massive amount of work you do as suffering?
Yeah. So actually, in the morning, every morning, I started doing this. Maybe I don't remember when I did. But I make a morning offering of the day. So all my sufferings, works, joys, whatever, for certain intentions.
Okay.
So I will start that because that way, in my mind, I was always like, okay, everything that I do is going to have value now that I've offered it up.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, whatever
Right.
So I do that, and then I also, like I said, I feel like I'm what do you call it when you can go from one thing to another? I'm blanking.
Squirrel?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm losing the word, but anyway, I am very good about focusing. So like when I'm at work, multitasking. Yeah. So
Animal multitasking.
yeah, and not necessarily doing things at once, but like having multiple projects and being able to kind of like jump around. But I would like I do go to daily mass. So
you go to daily mass?
Yes.
And you work this much?
Yes. But that's
When?
why you have
She's got
to
her priorities.
Yes, you have to be intentional. And so
What time mass do you go to?
well, one of the blessings of my work is that I'm able to work from home now. So I sometimes go to the noon mass at my parish. Other times there's a 5:15 at the chapel down the road.
Right. 5:15 a.m. or p.m.?
PM. I am not an AM person.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything that early in our diocese.
Right. Well,
15 and woo.
yeah, I know the earliest invite I received from the sisters over at Mater was like a 6:45. They were like, if you ever need to go to mass, you can come here.
Nice.
And so that's the earliest.
For me, I just stay up. I'm more of a night owl, so I'll stay up and work pretty late, and then sleep in a little bit in the morning.
Right.
But yeah, I do that. Honestly, I realized that, and this came over like years of experience of like, I sometimes in my head I'd be like, I don't have time to go to mass today. And then it's amazing. It truly is amazing what God does when you give him that time, because I felt like all of the things that I was stressing about of like, I'm not going to be able to finish this, somehow got finished faster and better, better quality. And I'm not just saying that, like, that's truly,
it is true.
If you give God the time,
he gives you it back.
Yeah. And I think it's like even prayer time, like before I mean, I do it mostly at night. But scripture reading and just,
how are you functioning at night now? I'm sorry. It's just that like I will try to read the Bible at night.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I'm doing certain things that like I'm putting myself behind the 8 ball. For example, yesterday I was like, I just took this 8-hour drive, and I said some prayers in the car, but I could not read the Bible. I was driving.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna
Bible in a year.
I can't audiobook it.
No.
Which is weird because I can audiobook it,
But
I just can't audiobook the Bible.
But you can get one with like what's that famous guy that played Darth Vader?
What's his
James
name?
Earl Jones. You can
That's
get James
so funny.
Earl Jones.
The high schoolers were talking about him
to
today.
read
and I
the
forgot.
Bible. Yeah, I mean, how
You can get him to read the Bible?
Yeah, there's one with him. There's one with like the guy that played Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
What's his name?
Morgan
now?
Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. That's
Morgan
it, yeah.
Freeman read the Bible. He's an atheist.
Is he really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wait. If God does not sound like Morgan Freeman, I'm going to be disappointed.
I don't think God has a voice because he doesn't have a body.
But how am I going to hear him when he's I'm going to put thoughts in my head? Probably.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, theology.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
Fun.
I just know that like.
Oh, you couldn't pray when you came back from his drive.
But I came back and I was reading the Bible in my bed. And my air conditioner had broke, so it was like really hot.
Oh no!
So I was like, I didn't, I realized I didn't take the correct action in setting myself up to succeed.
Yeah.
But even without those things, I feel like I'm falling asleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you do have to be like attuned to sort of like what type of person you are and what works for you. Because I think, I mean, even a lot of the great spiritual, writers and stuff have suggested, and I do a small morning prayer using the Magnificat in the morning. And I'm doing Bible in a Year this year, so I do that as well in the morning. But I think most people recommend morning as, like one of the first things. Maybe go to the bathroom, get your coffee, and then do that, because it does set the tone for the day.
Right.
Yeah, and I think honestly, eventually maybe I would like to switch, but I do like scripture reading. I just have more time for, and like the meditation aspect at night. But I think in the morning it can kind of like, you could be so stressed. I think a lot of people with their phones, they have their phones right next to their beds, right? So it's the first thing that you're checking in the morning, a lot of times before you're even like, turning your mind to God.
Right.
And if you kind of make an effort, I mean, I would suggest like, keeping your phone away from your bed and not even opening it up as a first thing.
Right. It's
praying.
most people's alarms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if it is, and you have to have that instead of a clock,
Instead of a clock.
if you really have to,
Right.
just don't check your work email, and kind of, because I think you can get so frazzled and anxious.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that completely happened to me. I had to like stop for a point of checking my emails in the morning, because it was just like causing anxiety before I even started the day. But then if you're praying, you keep this like, it puts you into this like eternal mindset perspective that like, okay, this is what's really important, and this is what I need to strive to do despite whatever comes my way, and also asking for the graces to like deal with difficult people that you're working with, just to basically like do well and kind of deal well with the obstacles that each day presents you. So
Yeah. I was just thinking back in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, there was kind of a saying among priests that they would often say, "My work is my prayer." And the kind of idea was that, by working for God, that's the same thing as praying to God. But I want to kind of flip that saying around, because I think it's more true the opposite way, where your prayer is your work. That's like really the primary way in which you do good for the world.
Right.
Even whatever else you do, whether you're a mother or father, whether you're taking care of kids, whether you're working, professional office.
Yeah.
But like your prayer, without your prayer, your efforts are nothing.
Right.
yeah.
I think it's Saint Therese says that she talks about the necessity of being charitable to your neighbor, but how ultimately that is like the word less sufficient isn't the correct phrase, because it's a good thing to be charitable to your neighbor, obviously, and it's a necessary thing. But she talks about how important it is to pray and fast for them to a deeper extent.
Yeah.
That is the more important step to take.
I actually had to look it up on Google, but it was St. Francis de Sales who said, every one of us needs half an hour of prayer every day, except when we're busy, and then we need an hour.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
Exactly.
convicted me too, because I feel like if you start to if you're so busy that you're like have this demanding career, all of these extracurriculars, and you're forgetting the big picture, which is God and Him. Like, prayer is our lifeline, right? So if we're not praying, we're not receiving the graces and the life that we need in order to do what God has called us to do. I think that has you can get really lost if you lose sight of that.
Yeah.
So kind of this whole idea kind of really senses the tension between the Martha and the Mary, and do you know who Martha and Mary are? Before this episode, he's like, yeah, Mary.
Well, I was I said Martha is the one who works, and Mary is the one who perfumed Christ's feet.
Yes, yeah, she did.
I can't remember if she wiped it with her hair, his feet rather.
She did.
Being his
With the
feet.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
All right, so I know who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
And that's always kind of and even you can see like the dichotomy between St. Peter and St. John. St. John is kind of the more contemplative one. He's the one who
It's like
on
he's
Christ's
up in the
chest.
sky. Yeah.
Yeah, and St. Peter's the one who goes to the ends of the earth, and preach the gospel.
That's interesting. I said he's up in the sky. You said he's at Christ's chest. Isn't that interesting?
Well, both.
Well, it's kind of the same thing.
That's how you go to the sky.
Yeah.
Through Christ's Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
But
anyway, sorry, that was.
But these two, like the tension that's constantly not only in our own lives but in the church, in the world, between action and contemplation, and how do you balance that? Because do you ever feel like lazy or guilty for spending time in prayer or doing something that's not so-called productive?
I mean, I definitely did at the beginning of sort of like my spiritual reversion, because we live in a world that tells you like I mean, basically the world tells you that your worth is based on your productivity. And that's how, you're treated even at great companies, you're judged sort of on how much do you produce, how well do you produce it, how fast do you produce it. And so when you're sitting in an adoration chapel or taking time to go to mass or, sitting with your scriptures at the end of the day, especially when you're doing silent prayer, which is really not you so much praying as God is praying in you, and you're just sitting with God. It's a weird sensation at first, but I think it's really helpful to sit in that silence and remember, because it brings you back to ultimately like our identity is not based on what we do, which is amazing, that we are just God's children, and that's what gives us our dignity.
Yeah.
And it's not these lies that have kind of been ingrained, I think, in all of us.
Oh, yeah.
That,
it's the American dream.
Yeah, that we're only as good as
It's the
what we
American
do.
nightmare.
Yeah. Well, although, I would say I lived in Italy for a year, and it used to drive me nuts when they would take the siesta. From
Right.
1 p.m. to 4 p.m., everything would be closed. And I'm like,
Right.
first of all, how do you make a living that way? But,
Right.
but
How
I
do
think,
you afford to eat?
Yeah. But I think they've discovered that, you work to live, not live to work.
So it's interesting because I was man, there's so many ways I can go here.
Go all of them at once.
Lord got it. Please. I know that. So to comment on the guilt portion of it, right? I know that I tend to feel very guilty when I choose to relax. For example, watching a New York Rangers game instead of going to adoration. And that isn't because it's not to say that I don't ever go to adoration. It could even be a situation where like I went to the chapel in the afternoon for a half hour knowing I want to watch this game later with my family, which is a great thing to do, And so because I'm planning on doing that tonight, I'm going to make sure I get my time in with Jesus. I'm like setting aside that time, and then I'll still, I know it's the devil being like, but aren't you? What are you doing? Like he's
You're
all
serious about holiness?
right. Being like, what do you mean you're watching with your dad? You jerk, But seriously, like that's a thing. I know that is something that I have struggled with. Honestly, to a somewhat severe point at times where it's obviously it's very scrupulous, but yeah. I asked the Lord to guide it, and that's where He brought me. So that's where I'm ending it. Okay.
No, that's great too, because I can kind of get into that too, of like to the point where you deny yourself of these good things, because you become
realizing it's not like, okay, is there a better good here?
Yeah,
of course, going and praying and at adoration for 3 hours at night is going to outweigh watching the New York Rangers.
But I keep going back to a quote from St. Thomas Aquinas. At least I've heard it's from St. Thomas Aquinas. I've never actually seen it in print.
Okay,
but he said that man cannot live without delight.
Right.
So there has to be a delight in every day, whether it's a good meal or something that you look forward to. That it's not all penance and prayer.
And I've also heard that he's it's in the context of study, but he says like, if studying is in the context of shooting an arrow and you're constantly drawing back your bow, you're gonna snap it.
Yeah.
You have to relax it every once in a while. And I think that the inclination in the American nightmare, right, is. I love that. I'm sorry. I felt very.
We're going with this.
Yeah. Is that you only have to relax your bow like once every 2-3 weeks, and the truth is like I need to relax my bow like every
day.
I was gonna say like 2-3 hours. Like your guy's got a short attention span, and it's the crazy thing is that the Lord can do some of His best work, although I don't know if I even want to call it work, you know what I mean, like in those moments of relaxation,
Sure,
in those moments of delight with my family. It's important that I would be close to my Father, and that's something that we bond over.
And in the future we're actually going to have a whole episode on how to do leisure properly, because leisure and free time can be done very wrong, but very
oh yeah.
So I actually found the quote from St. Thomas Aquinas. Thanks, Google.
Great.
And he said, man cannot live without joy. Therefore, when he is deprived of true spiritual joys, it is necessary that he become addicted to carnal pleasures. which I thought is kind of an interesting quote because I don't know about you, but like most of the time my prayer is not like filled with spiritual delights.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's often dry,
Dry.
you know, and so when you don't, you have to pray, and it's important, and God is working in it and through the dryness. But and I keep the phrase that keeps coming to my mind personally is Lord, when we see your face, our joy would be fulfilled. Like when we see God face to face, we will not need or want anything else. But until that day, and even in prayer until that day, when we're still struggling with the dryness, we do need those other joys. Now, the challenge is to not become addicted to them and to allow them to use us, to allow them to point us to the real joy of
Right.
heaven.
Seeing everything sacramentally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can learn such great lessons. I mean, I know, like my mind is currently on sports, but you can learn great lessons from things like that. It's why artists, like you've said, how the Lord speaks to you through art, and He speaks to you through, I think it's nature, right?
Nature, big time, yeah.
Right, and so it's like the beauty of something like that, which is so obviously leisure,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
taking a hike, in a nice way, not in a take a hike kind of. But you know what I mean? Like taking a hike is leisure.
Absolutely.
And doing it with friends, it doesn't get more leisurely.
That's true. That's
You and
true.
me taking a hike,
Yeah.
leisure.
Well, this summer I'm planning a backpacking trip up Mount Washington.
In New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Whoa.
yeah.
I drove up it with my family.
Week.
Well, it
No.
was insane.
It's a long drive. It's like 7 miles.
She's going to hate me for saying it. Okay, and my relative, I won't say who it is.
Say your sister.
No, I'm not
Your
saying
twin
who it was.
sister. Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
your
saying
twin
who it was.
sister, totally.
I neither confirm nor deny. Just lost it. Is like terrified of heights and lost it.
There's like guardrail and then 1,000-foot drop.
It's
on the other
insane.
side
No,
of the
there's
guard-
just like no guardrail.
Have you ever done this, Diane?
No, I haven't.
I went
I think
into-
I would want to hike, not drive. Though.
I went
Oh,
into a
it's an
total
epic
adrenaline rush and I'm not even kidding. It was the weirdest moment of my life. I was sticking my head out the window, hysterically laughing. She lost control in one way. I lost control in the other way.
There was also very little oxygen up there, so that could have been part of
I
the
mean, you're
reason
driving
why.
up this mountain and next to you is the top of the trees
Yes.
within inches.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
You
insane.
can go collect the birds.
It was crazy.
Well, I heard that it's, I think someone was telling me that she went in the summer and it was super hot at the bottom, but then at the top it was like snowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen. There could
Yeah.
be like a 70-degree
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
that's
it's intense.
Yeah.
also crazy.
Really cool mountain though.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I had a similar experience. I went out to Pikes Peak a few years ago
Pikes
in
Peak. Where's that?
Denver. Or outside of Denver. It's in Colorado. And that's where actually America the Beautiful was written, on the top of Pikes Peak.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
So we're driving up, and that's actually an even longer drive. I think it's like 20 miles instead of 7 miles. Like just winding back and forth.
Yeah.
We're going 7,000 feet from the base to the top of this mountain.
Right. Wow.
But I'm like, we're getting to the top, and I'm like, you know what? I cannot go here and not say that I didn't hike Pikes Peak. So we're like a quarter mile from the top, and I'm like, stop the car. I'm with my friends who don't like to hike at all. It's like, let me out. I'm going to hike the rest of the way to the top. There's a trail. I can find it. Great. So I get out. They start driving away. I take 3 steps, and I'm like, oh, there's no oxygen here.
Wow.
Altitude sickness so bad. I could not. I was like so dizzy. I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die right here on this.
Wow.
They come back for you?
No, I stumbled my way up, like stopping like every 3 steps. It was that intense.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
pretty epic.
Yeah, I've never been to Colorado, but that is, you hear stories about that a lot.
Yeah.
I was just watching the Mets game the other day, and it was like 88 degrees on the Thursday, and then the game on Friday was postponed due to snow. And they had
they
to
in Colorado?
clear-
They're playing
They were in Colorado, yeah. So the temperature swings too, even when you're not that high.
That's a great state.
Yeah.
Little wacky in some of its.
Yeah. Colorado. Father Joseph approved.
I approve Colorado. I don't think we have any listeners in Colorado, but you should all go there. Anyway, so so we talked about how like our culture really values the workaholism only. Did you think our church also values that? Because I know we've had such in the last really 5 or 6, maybe even 10 years in the church. There's been such a thrust for evangelization, which I know is burning on all of our hearts. We want to evangelize,
Right.
And so there's a lot of programs and different things, use this video series, do this, go out and meet somebody in the street. And all of that is
Right.
awesome. Do you think that's like too much of an emphasis on the Martha and not enough on the Mary side of pray and sanctify yourself, and that's evangelization?
Right. I mean, I don't know, because a lot of those things, right? A lot of those things always lead back to prayer. Do you know what I mean? Like you could use this as an example, Restless is an example. But I feel like at the end of each episode, you always encourage prayer.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? Like maybe this is seen as work, you know? I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
like
we're
all
doing
of these
something. We're
things.
active.
It's active, but it's always aimed at the renewal of the soul,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Also, historically speaking, I feel like the Carmelites are just like all the evidence you need. You know?
But they're mostly monastic in prayer, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone has a
Well,
different
that's what I'm
vocation
saying.
too, you know. So those are people who have been called by God in a specific way to dedicate their lives to prayer and contemplation and praying for our souls, and the souls of the entire world. But I think it depends. I think the answer to your question is it depends. Is, you know, you have to ask yourself, is prayer fueling the ministry and the active works? Because I know, like, for example, the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, I think they have like 2 holy hours a day, and they fully acknowledge that, like, you know, prayer is the fuel for any apostolate that they do.
And they do some tough apostolates.
They do. And so, you know, and I think too, the chaplain, I'm doing this Leonine form in New York City. Applications are open for next year, by the way. So if you're interested, and
what is the Leonine Forum? Just
so
give it a 1 sentence.
yeah,
summary.
it's basically just education on Catholic social teaching. So it's, you know,
For young adults.
Yeah, for young
Professional
adults, young professionals, once a month in New York City. It's like mass, lecture, dinner, and discussion, and so it's good. But the chaplain is, I mean, he's probably the busiest priest I know, but also one of the most prayerful. And he wrote an article, I think it's in some newspaper, but anyway, there's a Eucharistic revival that's going to be happening,
Yes.
I believe starting on Corpus Christi of 2022.
What does that mean?
So it's there was a Pew Research article that came out to say that I don't know what the statistic is, but very few Catholics actually believe in the real
It's
presence
70%, right?
of the Eucharist.
No, so 30% don't. 30% believe. 70%
Oh, I meant
don't.
70% don't.
Yeah. So the purpose of this revival is basically to re-catechize and, you know, just bring to light the fact that, like, this is the true presence. But anyway, the priests that were chosen, because I guess I didn't know how the process worked, but the College of Bishops, there were certain priests chosen who are kind of head leaders of this revival, and so as part of it, they're going to be sent around to parishes to give talks, to kind of, you know, instruction, all these things. These are very dynamic people with Eucharistic devotion themselves, a strong Eucharistic devotion. But it's not like they're just going out and just, you know, flying all over the country. Part of the preparation has been themselves being steeped in prayer and Eucharistic adoration to prepare to go and spread this message. So, you know, I think it really comes down to, like, continuously engaging in prayer and receiving that lifeline, because you can't give what you don't have yourself. So, and I think that a lot of very holy saints and examples of that have shown that, you know, like, their apostolate, we can focus as an outward society and stuff on their successes in their apostolate, but I don't think we focus enough on, like, how much of their prayer life ended up fueling that, you know, and was responsible for ultimately what they did. You know, like Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
It wasn't just her good works. It was, I mean, you know, hours in front of
How did she have the strength to do those good works?
Yeah.
Prayer.
And it was only through adoration and mass every day.
Every day.
For a significant amount of time. So
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, I was thinking of the example of St. John Bosco, who I love so much.
He's one of my favorites.
Is he? I only have 2 relics.
Did you know?
And he's one of them.
When he was you said you only have what?
2 relics, and he's one of them. I
Wow.
You beat me. I got 0, so.
Oh.
That's awesome. I didn't know you had a relic of him.
I do.
That's awesome.
I should bring him into the school so
Yeah.
we can venerate
He's pretty popular here. A
He
lot
is.
of the students like him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I was thinking of St. John Bosco, who, you know, I mean, I think at the height, I'm totally like ballparking this, but I think in the height of his school, he was in charge of 600 boys at this boarding school. So, you know, you got to
Or troubled boys, right?
Yeah, troubled boys and boys from the street and everything.
Okay.
There were some saints there too, St. Dominic Savio, but
right. It's not mutually
probably fewer
exclusive.
and far between.
Yeah.
But you know, so he used to say that he could only pray in scraps of time, like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, just in between all of the busyness of just trying to find food for the 600 boys and tutors and this and that. And I think a lot of times in our busy life, maybe scraps of time. And there's a great way to pray the aspiration prayers, where you're just like one sentence, like, Lord Jesus, I love you. And just in the middle.
Oh, I say those all the time. That's not toot my own horn and like I pray all the time. I mean, like, I'm constantly like, I'm constantly being like, Lord, help.
Yeah, no, but that's great. There's a couple others. Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's
Yeah.
a quick
Oh, yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I surrender to you. Take care of everything. I say that a lot. There's so many moments during the day, too, when you can,
Yeah.
like, for example, I go for a run every day, and instead of bringing my phone and listening to music, which, I mean, teach their own, but I use that time to pray my rosary and just, to kind of, like, meditate and to have a conversation with God. So
Right.
you can, like, there are ways that you can work in sort of
Yeah.
praying throughout
Absolutely.
the day,
Oh,
even
yeah.
when you're busy.
Because I think just to kind of sum it up, because we've run out of time, I think all Christians are called to be, for the most part, a balance of Martha and Mary.
Could you say that in order to be a Martha, you have to be a Mary?
Oh yeah, because otherwise, what are we giving to people? We shouldn't give them ourselves. We should give them Christ.
Yeah.
So we need to have Christ dwelling in us in order to give that away. So that's the challenge for you, is to try to balance that in your own life. Make sure the prayer is that solid piece, but then also be so impelled by the love of Christ to go out and do good works. In addition to your vocation of whatever job you have, whatever family you have, perhaps an apostolate that God's calling you to, perhaps a way to get more involved in your parish, your church, and spread the gospel. Because I think for the most part, unless you're called to be a hermit, all of us are called to, which that's not a common vocation. All of us, I think, are called to balance that Martha and Mary so that we can really build the kingdom here on earth. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Restless. You can find us on Veritas Catholic Network, 1350 AM and 103.5 FM. Tune in next time.